are the biggest gaming leaks and news you've probably missed this week. So, Helldivers 2. Remember when the big complaint was, oh my god, the game is too hard, the balance is screwed, Arrowhead doesn't know what they're doing? Yeah, turns out everybody screaming on Reddit actually got results. The Rupture strain, the newest sub-faction that's been tormenting players since September, is officially being taken offline for 5 whole weeks. That's right, they're pulling the plug on an entire enemy type like it's a Netflix show nobody wanted. Arrowhead basically admitted, yeah, we messed up. On the official Discord, they straight up said, our patch made things worse, which honestly might be the most honest dev communication I've seen in years. They didn't sugarcoat it, they didn't try to spin it, they just said, yeah, our fix broke everything, see you in 5 weeks. Now, here's the kicker. The Rupture Warriors were already a nightmare. They'd laser beam the host player like it was personal. You could be halfway across the map, and these things would headshot you with accuracy that would make an aimbot jealous. And Arrowhead's big fix? They made it so now the Ruptures don't just bully the host, they bully everyone. Equal opportunity pain. Great job, guys. Now the entire squad is getting farmed. One odd balance tweak wouldn't be the end of the world, but in the context of all the standing complaints players have about bugs and performance issues, this is another straw atop the back of a camel that's already struggling mightily. Are you just completely deaf at this point? Another Redditor asks in a message to the devs. Where did the Arrowhead that made the 60-day patch go? Did they all quit or move on? Because this move is one of pure arrogance and bullheadedness. 2 weeks of the game being in an absolutely dire state, and the most notable thing you tweak is to make the game actually worse for everyone. One of the QA leads, Jojo, tried to explain it. Basically, the old bug was a networking issue. Ruptures couldn't properly target non-host players. So Arrowhead fixed the networking, but in doing so, they just exposed how broken the Rupture's attacks actually are. It wasn't that they weren't overpowered, it was just that only the host noticed before. Now everybody gets to suffer together. So what do you do when your fix makes things 10 times worse? You Thanos snap the whole sub-faction out of existence. They're gone. Offline. 5 weeks in the penalty box while Arrowhead tries to rebalance them, which is probably the right call. But man, it's funny that it took Reddit turning into a salt mine for it to happen. One user summed it up perfectly. All the complaining worked. That's the moral of the story here. Sometimes whining on the internet actually gets results. So here's the latest drama out of PlayStation Studios. A Sucker Punch dev gets fired over a Charlie Kirk assassination joke, and now the studio boss himself has finally broken silence. Yeah, this one's messy. The dev in question, Drew Harrison, had been at Sucker Punch for nearly a decade. The day Kirk was shot, she posted a tweet that said, I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro got his back. This is the internet. Less than 24 hours later, she's gone. Sony confirmed it. Drew Harrison is no longer an employee of Sucker Punch Production. That fast. No hesitation. Now, Brian Fleming, co-founder and head of Sucker Punch, just gave his first real comment on it. His exact words. The facts are accurate. Drew's no longer an employee here. I think we're aligned as a studio that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us. Basically, he's saying this is a hard line. Cross it, you're out. No second chances. Of course, the internet being the internet, this didn't end with Harrison. The outrage machine revved up instantly. People like Mark Grumskern, professional clout chaser, started pushing campaigns to get other devs investigated. Not just at PlayStation, but across the industry. Bethesda got dragged into it for posting an Indiana Jones clip where Indy decks a Nazi. Microsoft got dragged too, with Elon Musk himself amplifying posts about their employees. That forced Xbox to issue its own statement about reviewing staff behavior.
I guarantee you when Yōtei does drop and someone inevitably plays it, they're gonna find a side mission or more where you have to save like a trans person in the middle of nowhere in rural Japan of all places from hundreds of years ago because they can't help themselves. And you already know there's gonna be powerful women who are also gay as the day is long, and all the men will be evil and weak too. Just look, it's gonna happen. But don't worry, they won't be weak as long as they're gay or something, because we can't have that. They even gave Ratchet and Clank multiverse versions named Rivet and Kit, it, because Insomniac wanted to slowly but surely replace Ratchet with Rivet because she's female. They even humiliated Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2. To make way for Miles Morales for obvious reasons, Aloy is now canonically lesbian in the Horizon series despite being able to romance men in the first game. You also have Intergalactic.
You guarantee what? These people are just making stuff up constantly. Like, bro, you're crying about strong female characters being in the game. Hello? The game literally has a female protagonist. What did you expect? A silent mannequin. Of course, there are strong women in Ghost of Yōtei, just like there were in Ghost of Tsushima. It's not new. It's not forced. It's literally part of the story. And then you come in with this whole, it'll be full of gay woke propaganda nonsense. Where's the evidence? Show me something. You can't because it doesn't exist. You're guaranteeing something you pulled out of thin air. Just Google strong women in Ghost of Tsushima. The first game already had them. Masako, Yuna. Like, did you even play it? You'd be shocked how woke that game would look if you're allergic to seeing women with swords. And now you're telling me I could romance guys in the first Horizon game? Wait, what? I finished that game twice. Bro, there's no romance system at all. You can't romance men. You can't romance women. You can't romance anyone. It's just not in the game. So yeah, constant misinformation with these people. It's non-stop word salad. Just lie after lie after lie. And they package it as some kind of warning or guarantee. Man, STFU. You guarantee me what? That you're gonna keep making shit up? I swear, sometimes this discourse makes me want to puke my guts out. Right now, the left and the right are fighting like monkeys. I'm not kidding. Go look at the comment sections on these channels. It's the same circus every time. You've got people screaming, I'll never buy this game, but then in the same breath saying they still want to play Ghost of Yōtei. Just not pay for it. Make that make sense. Think independently. Don't choose a side just because you feel like you have to wave a flag. It's all a comedy shit show. I watched that whole video. The first half is nonsense. And the second half? Just reading comments from angry leftists attacking them back. That's it. 25 minutes of nothing. Nothing to do with the game, no breakdown of the gameplay, no insight into the story, no actual discussion. Just politics and mudslinging. Don't pick sides, pick reason, that's it. Potential PlayStation 6 buyers are already sweating bullets, and Sony hasn't even shown the damn thing yet. And can you blame them? Look around. Everything's more expensive right now. Groceries, rent, gas, and yeah, even video games. Consoles were never cheap, but there used to be this unspoken deal. Prices go down as the years go on. You wait long enough, and that shiny new box eventually gets cheaper. Well, not anymore. The PS5 launched in 2020 for $499, and somehow, 5 years later, it's more expensive. $549 now, and that's if you can even find one. The digital edition, that went up by a full $100. And Sony's latest genius idea? Cut the storage smaller, but keep the price the same, so you get less console for the same price tag. Incredible. And look, this isn't just inflation bad talk. We're dealing with tariffs that have jacked gaming hardware prices by up to 40%. That's insane. And while consoles are climbing, so are the games. What used to be $60 is now $70. And then you've got Nintendo charging $80 for Mario Kart World. $80 for Mario Kart. At this rate, I'm expecting the next Animal Crossing to come bundled with a payment plan. GamesIndustry.biz actually nailed it when they said this kind of thing radically changes the entire promise of the console ecosystem. Translation: entire categories of games could become commercially unworkable on consoles, which basically means you're paying more money for less variety in the long run. Fun times. Fans aren't stupid either. One guy on Reddit literally said, "You don't say. PS6 will be $1,000. And honestly, I don't even think he's joking. Another fan brought up the PS 3 days when everyone lost their minds at $599. And now we've been conditioned to see $600 as normal. Sony has us trained like Pavlov's dogs. And then there's the politics angle. Some fans are even predicting Sony might hold off on PS6 until after the next presidential election, just to avoid whatever fresh wave of tariffs get thrown around. Because apparently, whether or not you can afford a PlayStation now depends on who's sitting in the White House. Imagine explaining that to your 10-year-old. The bottom line? Every sign points to PlayStation 6 being the most expensive console we've ever seen. insane. And the real horror isn't just the price, it's how fast we've all gotten used to it. And speaking of consoles becoming expensive, Microsoft just raised the price of the Series X yet again. Now it's $800. Guys, this is a console with the same power as the base PS5, just with an extra 1 terabyte of storage. This is beyond insane. It's like Microsoft is begging us not to buy an Xbox. This is sad. This is just sad. Oh, and the Switch 2? Man, just save an extra $200 and get a decent gaming handheld. The Switch 2 is so outdated and overpriced that it's ridiculous. And this leads me to my next segment. The Switch 2 sucks, man. And I don't mean in a haha quirky Nintendo way. I mean, it actually sucks. I've been holding this one in because I wanted to see if maybe, just maybe, there was something here worth defending. But no, the more I look at it, the more obvious it gets. Nintendo basically duct taped a PS4 into a plastic shell, slapped a 2 on the box, and sold it to you for $500. And yeah, it's selling like crazy. Of course it is. Nostalgia is undefeated. The die-hard fans are lining up like cattle, wallets open, because God forbid anyone misses Mario Kart for the 8th generation in a row. They bundled it for $499, and that's the only reason most people didn't notice how bad this deal really is. Nobody was paying $80 for Mario Kart separately. You can only reheat leftovers so many times before people realize they're eating week-old garbage. But let's talk about what's under the hood here. This thing is weaker than a gas station energy drink. Docked, it can sometimes manage 1080p at 30 frames per second, and handheld, still 720p. That's the same resolution as the first Switch. You could time travel back to 2017, pull a Switch out of the box, and your screen would look basically identical to the Switch 2. The only new trick is DLSS, which is just AI upscaling. It's Nintendo's version of putting makeup on a corpse. They're calling it 4K, but it's really just 720p with a filter that makes you squint less. And here's the big problem: third-party support, or really, the lack of it. This thing is allergic to modern games. Developers can't even pretend to target it seriously. Most of what you're seeing right now are just PS4 ports. 10-year-old games dragged back from the grave like some Frankenstein monster. Ubisoft is out here hoarding Assassin's Creed Unity, a game that was so broken at launch it became a meme. And somehow it still looks worse on Switch 2. Meanwhile, look at Call of Duty. Microsoft has been putting Call of Duty on everything with a power button. They'd release it on a smart fridge if they could, but Black Ops 7 isn't confirmed for the Switch 2. And it's not because Microsoft doesn't want it there. It's because the Switch 2 would catch fire trying to render a single cutscene. Digital Foundry's breakdown of Resident Evil 9 was the nail in the coffin. It looks horrendous. Frame pacing so bad it turns the game into a slideshow. Textures that look like someone smeared peanut butter on the lens. Animations that belong in a PS3 tech demo. It gave me full-blown PTSD flashbacks to Mortal Kombat 1's infamous Switch port, where characters looked like wax figures melting in the sun. This is what Nintendo's charging $500,000 for. And before someone says, but Nintendo's always been underpowered, yeah, true, but there used to be a trade-off. The Wii was underpowered, but it had motion controls that felt fresh. The original Switch was underpowered, but at least you could take it on the go. And that portability was a genuine game changer. The Switch 2, it's just the same console again, except weaker compared to the industry than ever before. There's no new hook, no fresh innovation, nothing. Nintendo just copy-pasted their own homework, scribbled a 2 on the top, and charged you more money. And let's talk about that money. $450 base, $499 with Mario Kart. For that price, you could grab a PS5 digital edition or a discounted Xbox Series X. Both of those run actual next-gen games at modern standards, 4K, ray tracing, stable frame rates. Instead, Nintendo gives you a PS4 Slim in a trench coat and expects applause, and people clap like trained seals for it. The worst part is, this time, nostalgia might not be enough. Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Zelda, they've been carrying Nintendo for decades. But you can't keep duct taping the same 3 franchises to underpowered hardware forever. Fans are already cracking. You see it in the comments. You see it in the Digital Foundry breakdowns. People are tired. They're realizing they're paying premium prices for decade-old tech. And it stings even more when you look at history. Nintendo's always danced on the edge of being quirky, underpowered, but usually they had a big win to cover it. The Wii crushed because it was cheap and new. The Switch exploded because it hit the hybrid niche perfectly. But Nintendo also has a history of stumbling into disaster when they get too comfortable. Look at the Wii U. That console was a joke. Nobody knew what it was supposed to be. Third parties abandoned it instantly, and it sold like trash. The only reason Nintendo recovered was because the Switch came right after and nailed it. Third-party devs aren't stupid. They're already looking at this hardware like it's radioactive waste. Why pour money into optimizing a game for a console that can't even break 1080 when you could just target PS5, Xbox, and PC? That's why the Switch 2's library is going to be 90% Nintendo's own games and a graveyard of PS4 ports. And even the Nintendo exclusives are starting to show cracks. This isn't innovation anymore. It's complacency. It's arrogance. It's the same Happy Meal toy over and over again, and fans are supposed to act surprised every time. Nintendo Switch 2 makes me drier than the Sahara Desert. I've had more excitement opening junk mail. If you enjoyed this video, hey, maybe drop a like. It really helps a lot and tells me you want more. Subscribe for day one gaming leaks and news, and check out these videos you probably missed. Trust me, they're worth it.